Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. I'm really glad to be doing another one of these. I've got Luke on. He runs a great company out of southwestern Florida. And I think that there's going to be a lot of things as he and I were just kind of becoming familiar with one another before that will be really, really helpful for many of you operators out there. And also maybe many of you that are looking to do your own thing. You're working for a company, whether it's a landscape company or an HVAC company or a garage door company. You're in a truck right now or a van right now listening and thinking, hey, Luke was kind of in a similar position years and years ago, and look what he's doing now. Maybe I could do that too. And so I think that some of the things he will share will be valuable and interesting. This episode, as they all are, it's brought to you by my company, Moxie Pest Control. We're growing. 2022 was wonderful. We're looking to have even more growth in 2023. As I've said on the last few of these over the last 6 weeks or so, my management team, we've kind of wrapped up our settled up to see where we landed in 2022, and we've done our forecasting and goals for 2023. And we are excited. We experienced a good amount of growth last year and are expecting the same, if not more, this year in 2023. A primary way in which we've done that has been the last 4 or 5 years has been via acquisition. And so if anyone is out there and you're in any of our markets and you're considering thinking about what the next chapter of life looks like, perhaps not in pest control, or you're looking to divest or whatever it may be, I'd love to have those conversations with you. We've done probably over a dozen deals at this point that I've been involved in. And we learn a little bit every time we do them. And we're kind of finding a rhythm about how that can go, and companies that really fit well with what we're looking to be able to do. And so you can reach out to me directly if you'd like on my cell. You can call or text me. It's 480-254-9730. Or you can email me directly at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. Luke's a family man. We found out that we're kind of really almost the same people. We're both in pest, both married. He's 37, I'm 38. We both got 5 kids that are in about the same range. And so we have a lot more in common than we knew. We also both live in sunny places, me in Phoenix, him in Florida. And so we've got good weather. Well, I've got good weather half the year. He's got good weather pretty much all of the year. Yeah, basically all year. And so he certainly believes that his company and putting clients' needs first and taking care of them and providing tremendous value. Luke, thank you for being on. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Before we kind of get into like some of the meat and potatoes of what we discussed, give us a little bit of your background. You've had your company now for 9 years. We'll talk a little bit more about that. What were you doing before? What inspired you, or how did the pest industry find you? Give us a little bit more background.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we're actually going on 9 years in March. So it's been quite the journey for sure. My story is I sort of fell into the pest control industry. It wasn't obviously as a kid, I wasn't planning on growing up and owning a pest control company. I have an uncle that is a franchisee of Chick-fil-A and things of that nature, and he actually runs now 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them. And so for a while, I always thought that would be what I would do. And from a young age, I had a high interest in business, not knowing necessarily that it was business, but I had a high interest in just serving others. And then and once I discovered I could make money from it, it became a no-brainer to me very early on. So I started that entrepreneurial spirit since I was a young kid. And then eventually it led me to obviously starting my own pest control company. So reeling it back in, I fell into the industry, so to speak. I was coming out of college. I needed a place to work. It was 2008 at the time. As many of you guys know, the economy was, it wasn't the greatest. I must have applied at 50 or more companies, and that's not exaggerating. That's literal. And one of them that responded was a local pest control company, mom and pops they had built it up. They had several employees, and I did the interview. I felt good about it, and one thing led to another, and I ended up joining them, and that's kind of how I got into the industry. I worked my way up with them, got some of the licenses that I needed in order to, obviously go out on my own. And then back in March 2014, I decided to take a leap of faith and jump out there and go on my own. So.
And the rest is history. Here we are. So that was 2014.
Yep.
When we were talking before, you had also mentioned too that the first 4 years or so, you maybe weren't as focused as you were now, or took some time learning some things. Maybe tell us about that time period, and then what happened 4 or 5 years into it to where, because really, I mean, everything that I say everything as it relates to a lot of the success that you've had with your business, most of that has come in the last 5 years or so. So the company's been around for about 9.
Yep.
And so what was going on the first 4 years? What lessons did you learn? What happened or occurred, or thoughts did you have that said, hey, I'm going to do a little differently, be a little differently? And then maybe tell us about the last 5 years as well.
Absolutely. I think that for me, it's best that I be completely vulnerable and transparent so that it will touch whoever is listening. I'll be straightforward. I started the company with little to no money in my actual personal account. Probably not a good idea. Maybe my naiveness at the time overshadowed everything, so I didn't pay attention to that. Luckily for me, I hit the ground running, and I did old school methods as well as some of the new school methods. I door knocked, I cold called. I got a list from a company called, I believe it's infofree.net. I used to use it a while back to get, I haven't been on there in years, but early on I used it. And there was free version of subscription or whatnot. I just did the free version, got as much information as I could, and ran with it. So I got going by door knocking, cold calling, door hanging, reaching out to friends, family, networking. If I saw somebody that was in a different home service industry, I would try to connect with them and see if we can add value to one another. I passed work their way and vice versa, and that seemed to work out. But I would say that in full transparency, one of the things that I got wrong early on is a couple things. It wasn't just my naiveness. That part I think is not really a problem. Like it gave me that will and desire to just follow through no matter what. But my problem early on was I thought I could handle doing like the bookkeeping and some of the accounting, as well as, you're wearing many hats when you first begin.
You're wearing all hats when you first begin, right?
Pretty much. And for me, not using any capital or borrowing any money from anyone, I started it with basically sweat equity. I was trying to balance it all. So I had no choice but to wear all the hats. And one of the mistakes I made early on was trying to be the accountant and the bookkeeper. And it wasn't that I wasn't good at it. It's just that I had so many other things on my plate that would constantly be shelved because I was wanting to make sure I took care of the client. And next thing you know it, I found myself in a bit of hot water with payroll taxes. So one of the things I would advise is, hey, early on, just do yourself the favor, get the accountant, get the bookkeeper, let them handle that. Luckily it wasn't something that was too terrible, but I spent, that first few years, obviously I made a lot of mistakes with that. So I had to spend the next year paying that all back, which meant I had to take away from any money I could give myself. And so it wasn't that I didn't do some of it right. I just didn't do it in a timely manner. And you know as much as I do, if it's not done in a timely manner and not organized, it could catch up to you fast. So I would advise anyone out there that's starting off, you can get started with little to no money like I did. You better have the time to put in a lot of sweat equity, and you better eat, sleep, everything better revolve around you building that business if you're not putting starting with capital. But number two, I would advise that you hire a bookkeeper and an accountant that can help you avoid some of the pitfalls that I faced. I went at it alone. I was afraid to ask for any help. I didn't want to hire anyone. I felt like I didn't have the money. Well, the reality is you don't want to be in a position where you're not carving out a certain amount of money to have a bookkeeper and an accountant, because that is going to help you tremendously, and they'll even help you navigate around certain things that you didn't think were going to become a problem. So for me, it was payroll taxes early on. I had W-2'd myself. Obviously, I didn't pay some of those right away, and one thing led to another, and I didn't realize that this is the real deal. So don't do that. And this is the first time I ever shared that publicly. So but
well, and they say that there's, I smile, Luke, not because I'm reveling in the misery that you were experiencing years ago, but I have first they say there's two things that are certain: death and taxes. And I think that taxes are probably even more certain than death. But yes. I have a friend, his name is Ken Goodrich. He owns and operates a fantastic, humongous HVAC company throughout the United States called Gettle. And he tells a story similar to yours that, got into the business, was inexperienced, doing his thing, growing the company, this, that, the other. And then one day the IRS comes knocking on the door. I don't know if they actually came knocking on the door. If they do that, he probably got a letter or a notice. And this says, hey, you are behind on your payroll taxes. And his first thought was, what are payroll taxes? And he was able to get, as you did maybe a few years ago, an education very quickly about what those were and how to make installments and payments back.
That's right.
For those taxes. And so I also really appreciate too, because look, most entrepreneurs and business owners, if they've got a area of improvement, if you will, or something that may not quite be their forte, it is the books, it is the financials, it is some of those things. And so, look, you're gonna go.
I think the big takeaway there is that when we're first starting off, many of us, if you're in the same type of journey, on the same type of journey that I was, we get so focused on just making sure we're taking care of the client, which is, you definitely have to do that, and we forget about that back end, because let's face it, we were a service tech before, we weren't a business owner before, so we didn't have to think about that. So I would say
you definitely have to think about. You never paid taxes before.
That's right.
You never did it. So that was the kind of first 4 years or so. Let's go into, and as you said, there were definitely some things that you learned and maybe some mistakes that were made, and you didn't make those mistakes twice. But really, a lot of the success and growth as far as top line revenue that you've had has been these last 4 or 5 years. And so, what happened, Luke? What were you fed up with where you were? Did something happen where you're like, hey, I'm going to take this more seriously, or I know that I've got more to give and I can do better than this? And then what did that next couple of years look like?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't that I was like purposely trying to be distracted. I had some personal issues going on with my ex-wife, so it was it kind of distracted me. So my head wasn't really in the game like it should have been. And so I would say that, look, you're going to go through personal issues as you're trying to build any business. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. I had to learn very quickly that there's a time and a place. You have to learn to turn it on and shut it off, because business is business and personal is personal. And so once I realized that I had to make that separation, like we hear about that all the time, but once I realized, no, you have to make that separation in order to succeed. That's when I say I started taking it more seriously. I looked at the business in a different light. I recognized things that I wasn't doing, like we weren't really doing much digital advertising. We really didn't have a good customer referral program. We had price sheets that were 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 pages long, like it was ordering off a menu from a fast food restaurant. Chasing after anything and everything, which I learned is not good. So I had to learn to condense that down, focus on what do we feel confident that we're good at, and only build on that. You don't want to chase every rabbit. You don't want to offer every single service, every single line of business. You want to condense it down to a handful that you feel confident that you can produce a great service experience for your customers. So
what Luke, is your guys' core business, or do you guys do is your bread and butter residential general
residential pest control,
commercial?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'll give the example. Like, we used to do all kinds of silly things in the beginning, like, we would make up programs that didn't exist. Well, there's probably a reason why they didn't exist. And we'll do a screen patch repair because a rodent chewed through your screen. What were we doing, right? Like, at the time, it seemed legit, but then as you start to gain more experience and understand business more, you realize that those are things that you shouldn't. We spend too much time chasing after those things that really there's no sustainable growth to it. You're chasing the rabbit. You're trying to get the money now because you want to try to keep your business alive now, but how does that help you in the future, right? And so these weren't like programs that we can build off of. These were a lot of one-offs, I don't know. I mean, the other thing that a lot of us do when we're first starting, and you're not, you don't have an investor, or you're not using a lot of money, so we try to get as many clients as we can. And how do we do that? We lowball it. We go $30 cheaper than this guy, $20 cheaper than this guy. Oh, hey, well, I know he's doing it for this much, so if I come in at 10% lower, I'm for sure going to get the job. Well, you might get the job, but you're also cutting your own throat. You're not going to make any money. You're not going to create a business. You're going to create a job, just that, for yourself. And so that was another thing that I was doing early on that I had to shift away from and understand that, what are our costs, and how does that relate to how we charge, and I stopped paying attention to what other people charge and focused on what is our situation.
Yeah.
So,
well, any more today, Luke, customers, look, they want three things. And us as business owners can only provide two of them. So they want the quality or good fast is one. Amazon's ruined all of that for us in a good way. They've leveled us up. They want it cheap or inexpensive. And then they want high quality.
yes.
So we as business owners can choose. Look, we can get it to you fast. We can get it to you cheap. Probably not going to be high quality. We can get it to you fast. We can get it to you and when you go and do the discount game, that totally takes the quality out the door. And so who do you want to be in the marketplace? And from my personal experience, you want to be positioned as a premium brand, a premium company.
Absolutely.
Let everyone else fight over the cheap jobs. Those clients, I've learned too, they also complain the most, call you the most,
Yes.
are the most unreasonable.
They don't pay their bills on time. You're chasing. And it's not that they're bad people. What I've learned is that they're just not a right fit for our organization. And so, that's what it comes down to. Is it's just, not the direction that you think you want to go in. It's not going to help you long-term wise. If you're trying to grow the business.
Yeah, it's the wrong kind of revenue. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. And so again,
Wow.
if you've got $1 million company, but your expenses exceed that, then you don't really have much of a business at all. But if you can run that thing at a 5 or a 10 or 20 or whatever margin, then you've got money to reinvest and to market with and to grow and to take good care of employees and whatever else. You've got your sights set really high over the next few years. When we spoke, one of the things that I think has helped you to adjust your sights and to maybe think bigger is you recently, just in the last year, hired a consultant, if you will, or
yes.
a mentor. Is that something you feel like you could speak to or share?
Absolutely. That would be something. Yes, that would be something that I would have wished I'd done many moons ago. So again, when you're first starting off, you're thinking, I don't have the money for that. Well, if you carve out, even if it means temporarily, you're taking a cut from yourself. If you carve out that money to pay somebody that's been there, done that, right? Like I think Gary Vee always says, if you want to become the sun, you have to get as close as you can to the sun. Well, if you force yourself to say, hey, I'm gonna go without X amount of dollars so I can afford, quote unquote, afford to pay for a consultant, I think you'll be doing yourself a big favor, because that's something I wish I would have done early on. But I was always two things. One, I didn't have enough money. Two, I was not vulnerable enough or courageous enough to ask for the help. I was too afraid to just open up and let them see everything I had, because I felt like, I felt like it was embarrassing. Well, hey, there's nothing that they haven't already seen and that they can't help you navigate around. So get rid of that vulnerability and don't be afraid. They want to help. If you find the right fit, somebody like, the consultant we found, they had built, $100, $200 million businesses. They became, vice presidents of the Southeast Division of Orkin and things of that nature. Like these are people that have been there, done that. They fully understand, what it takes to help you grow. So yeah, hiring a consultant was a big eye opener to us. I think I said to you before we jumped on this, is one of the biggest takeaways is you begin to realize you don't know what you don't know. Like you think you know it, but you have no idea. And it's not a bad thing. It actually saves you, or could save you, years and years of anguish and mistakes. So, taking that time to learn from a consultant that, actually has built, at one point, the nation's 14th largest company, helped launch, Sears Pest Control, with his partner, Home Pest Control. These are, if you have the opportunity to work with somebody, I would highly encourage it, because it will help you and your business tremendously, And so for us, it helped me understand that we needed to, again, condense things down to only a certain number of lines of businesses. So we're not like going after everything. Our core focus is on residential pest control. We've even cut back on some of our commercial pest control in an effort to put that effort into building more residential recurring pest control. And the biggest thing too is understanding how to build value, so you're giving your clients way more bang for their buck, instead of trying to a la carte everything, and one-offs. So if you could hire a consultant, the sooner you could do it, the better. In my opinion.
So that was something you wished you would have done years ago. Definitely
Yes.
got the ROI, a good thing. What, aside from a mentor or a consultant, because I know that you're passionate about learning and passionate about education, have there been any other things that you've done maybe the last 4 or 5 years that have helped you to achieve some of the goals? I mean, is there books that you've read that have been really impactful to you, or conferences that you attend, or podcasts that you listen to, those sorts of resources?
Yes. So a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, I believe his name is. That had a big impact on me once I read it. I won't go off on too much of a tangent with that, but basically, you try to start by explaining to your prospective client why you do what you do, instead of telling them what you do and how you do it. Most of us tell them what we do and how we do it, but very few of us tell them why we do it, right? So Simon Sinek, Start With Why. There was what was the other book called? It was the Think and Grow Rich. I've read that several times. I still have to reread it, because I feel like you pull something away from it every time you reread it that you didn't the previous time. So Think and Grow Rich was one of them as well. And then the book Traction by Gino Wickman, that really helped me, before a consultant, understand the 3 main elements of business, which you have sales and marketing, operations, and then HR/finance. It helped me understand how to view each one of those. It helped me understand how I can operate my business, not necessarily a software, but internally. Like how can we take a team approach to building a business, and understanding what each section of the business is and how we need to grow each one of those, and how there needs to be synergy between each one in order to really experience sustainable growth. So, that book I read, Traction, helped me, organize or reorganize the business. It really helped with our goal setting and understanding, how to reverse engineer things back down to today. So you come up with your 10-year picture. Like, 10 years from now, think of in your wildest dreams what you'd want your business to look like. And then what do you need to do in the next 5 years to be on track to hit that 10-year? What do you need to do in the next 3 years to be on track to hit that 5-year, to hit that 10-year? What do you need to do in the next year to be on track to hit the 3, and so on and so forth, all the way down to 90 days, down to each week, each day. What needs to be done each day? So that has helped. That helped me before having the consultant, as far as how to structure and go at our goals and provide clarity to our team. So those would be the 3 main books that I would say I read that has had have had impacts on me. So start with Why, Think and Grow Rich, and Traction by Gino Wickman.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Luke. I know that you've got big goals for 2023 and beyond. And I know one of the things that we had talked about before we went live was just, kind of what you're willing to sacrifice, or maybe what you're willing to not do. I mean, you've gotten to a point where you've got a handful of wonderful employees. You're a family man too, with 5 kids. You're getting paid after nearly a decade of hard work, sort of thing. And I guess probably my 2 cents about that is it does really come down to balance. And I think that everyone's situation is their own situation. And so, like, what are your goals? One of my, as it relates to this point, one of my favorite stories of all time is the experience that Alice had with the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. And essentially what happens is Alice comes down the path, the road, there's a fork. She doesn't know where to go. The Cheshire Cat shows up and says, or she asks the Cheshire Cat, which way should I go? And the Cheshire Cat says, well, that depends on where you want to go or to be led to. And she said that she didn't know. And then the Cheshire Cat wisely said, then it doesn't matter what path you take. And so I think as we kind of like reverse engineer where we want to go, just as you were talking about with goals,
Yes.
where do we want to be in 5 years? If we really mean that, then that means in 3 years that the company needs to look like this, and the revenues need to be this, and the infrastructure needs to be this. And then that means in 1 year from today that the company, needs to look like this, and all the way to the 90 and 1 month and 1 week and today. And so it's no different with our personal lives or our financial lives or our health and fitness or spirituality or individuality or whatever that may look like. It's to say, look, where do we want to end up and where do we want to be? And then this is what it looks like. And maybe you go and get a mentor or a coach and understand what that investment of time and cash or capital or whatever might look like. And so, we had talked about just time is really our greatest asset. It's fixed. You have the same 24 hours in a day as I do, as the president does. And so how are we using that time? How are we investing that time? How are we multiplying that time? And what things are we saying yes to? Every time we say yes, we say no to an infinite amount of other things or opportunities. And frankly, I think that all of us probably need to be saying no a lot more. The things that we're saying yes to, my goodness, like they need to be our top priorities as it relates to our businesses, our families, not in that order, and whatever it is we're looking to be able to achieve. There was another, I don't know if it was like and I don't even remember like the philosopher, but there was a young student that went to this philosopher and just said, I want to know all the things that you know. I want to have experienced all the things that you've experienced. I want all of your wisdom. And the philosopher said, okay, well, hey, come with me tomorrow we'll go to the beach and I'll share, kind of the first lesson on that path. They went out onto the beach, they waded waist high into the water. He grabbed him, held him underwater until he was almost dead, gasping for his last breath, and then brought him up and said, when you want to learn the things that I know, or to be as educated or wise or whatever as me, as badly as you wanted to breathe your last breath, then you'll start to begin to understand and learn the things that I know and learn. And so I think that we need to what I take away from that experience, I never had it, but that story is that we need to be serious and we need to be really passionate about our goals and about our education and about the things that we're wanting to accomplish and look and do and the rest of it. This has been wonderful. I want Luke to be able to give you the last word. What is some kind of, as we round this out in the next minute or two, what is a piece of advice for someone that has their own business that's wanting to take it to the next level as you have done over the last 4 or 5 years? And then after that, what's the best way for people to carry on the conversation with you? How do they reach out to you? Do they find you on social or an email, or how do they do that?
Yeah, so if you're wanting to take it to the next level, again, I would recommend hiring a consultant. Getting focused, laser focused on really what you're good at and not what you want to be good at in the future. So like here and now, what are you good at? Hone in on that, lean in on that, and use that to push you into the next level. Separating out your business, understanding that you need a good sales and marketing part of your business, as well as operations need to be in good order. And it's your finance and HR, making sure that you're adhering to whatever your state regulations are. If you have employees,
pay those payroll taxes, right? Pay those payroll taxes
early on. We don't have that problem anymore. That was when it was just me out there still. Now we have, like I said, around 10 employees. So that's different now. But yeah, just hone in on what you're good at and don't try to chase every rabbit. Learn from those who have already been there and done it. It's worth every penny. I know some are, really expensive, but I truly believe that if you find the right fit, it will be more than worth every penny. Especially if you want to take it to the next level. And thank you for your advice, by the way, and sharing with me what you just said about, goals and reverse engineering. It's similar to what I've already said. That really resonated as far as, what direction I want to go in now in the future. So thank you. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at mypestpro.net, 239-877-4041, or info@mypestprofessional.com.
Awesome. Luke, thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing it with me and with my audience. Thank you to all of you that listen and tune in and subscribe. If you haven't already, please do it. These will drop once a week. And until then, create a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.